Thyroid health is something we hear a lot about nowadays, so I want to discuss the thyroid a little bit, especially since I've dealt with thyroid issues personally. So there's a lot of things that need to be understood about the thyroid, and I am going to get a little bit in depth here, but bear with me because all of these things are very important when discussing thyroid health. So the thyroid produces two thyroid hormones and calcitonin, which helps to lower calcium and phosphate levels in the blood to help the bones absorb more calcium. The thyroid hormones are essential for metabolism and growth and development. Now, most doctors treat the thyroid directly and kind of isolated, but the body is a whole and it all functions together. So it's really important to look at it that way because thyroid dysfunction is a symptom of something much larger going on in the body. So addressing the underlying issues is going to be very important here. The regulation of thyroid hormones depends on the relationship between the pituitary gland and the thyroid gland. Now, the pituitary gland in the brain releases thyroid stimulating hormone, which is TSH, on lab values. The TSH is high, or which is called hypothyroidism. It's high if the thyroid is sluggish and there's not enough of the thyroid hormones. This is why the HPA axis is so important. Now, if you're not familiar with the HPA axis, that is the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal gland axis, and they all work together. So that's why we can't just focus on one gland like the thyroid by itself. And if one of these areas is under stress, then that affects the thyroid. And most people have some degree of HPA axis dysfunction because we have so much stress nowadays and we just have so many things coming at us. But the adrenal glands have to be addressed most of the time to properly heal the thyroid. Now, another factor here is minerals, and you guys know how much I love my minerals, but when talking about the thyroid, we're talking about specifically calcium, potassium, selenium, and copper, but also vitamin A, magnesium, vitamin C, ceruloplasmin, iron, zinc, and iodine. Imbalances in these can cause the thyroid to be sluggish because the thyroid needs these nutrients in order to function properly. Those things being said, the gut is usually the most important thing that has to be addressed in healing illness, especially the thyroid, as the gut encompasses nutrient assimilation and so many other things, as well as inflammation stemming from the gut can affect the thyroid. So that's very important. And one thing that is, as a side note, can be helpful is thermography or thermograms, because that can show us if there's inflammation coming from the teeth to the thyroid or down to the breasts. So that can be kind of cool to see too, as where the inflammation is coming from. But conversion of the thyroid hormones depends on a healthy gut microbiome. So gut health is very important to consider here when we're talking about the thyroid. Now, another huge factor in thyroid health is the liver. If the liver isn't happy, then so many things in the body can be going wrong, especially the thyroid. So when looking at the two thyroid hormones, T3 and T4, the only form that can be used by the cells is T3. So T4 has to be converted to T3. And guess where that is done? The liver. So again, liver, very, very important when we're talking about thyroid health. We're also seeing high amounts of autoimmune thyroid issues nowadays. And so those can often be from underlying issues like EBV, Epstein-Barr virus, or Lyme. And sometimes there's a need for medication, but it's always best to know what's going on underlying before treating, obviously, if possible. Another thing that can cause autoimmunity or inflammation in the thyroid is gluten, actually. And it's pretty interesting. It's called molecular mimicry. But gluten is very naturally inflammatory and a lot of people have sensitivity to it. So when we ingest gluten, the body can have like a little bit of a confusion, because if we have a sensitivity to gluten and it's causing inflammation, then the body can start attacking thyroid tissue because molecularly it sees the two as identical, gluten and thyroid tissue. So that can be important too, especially considering a lot of thyroid medications have gluten in them. So there's a lot of things that impact the thyroid, and fixing the thyroid imbalances look different for everyone since there's so many variations and so many factors in thyroid function. But knowing your mineral status and balancing them, correcting nutrient deficiencies, healing the gut and healing the liver, these are all imperative when you truly want to have thyroid healing. These things are things that we look for for testing here at Kingdom. So we do full thyroid panels, not just TSH. We do the thyroid hormones, We do both thyroid antibodies. We look at foods that are causing inflammation. We look at vitamin and mineral imbalances, as well as liver and gut health. So we will be posting some additional information on this in other posts if you guys are interested in learning more. And if you guys have anything specific or any specific questions on thyroid health, shoot us a message or comment below and we are happy to help.